least 2 transfers and at least 2 more kids, homeschoolers that are there for 1 period a day for athletic purposes.
Oh, were those the 6?
No, that's, I'm not counting my 2 homeschool kids that came for athletic purposes.
Oh.
We had three kids come in that have been homeschooled and had never been in school.
Only been here for what, 8 years?
But we'll take them. And then we had some transfers in, a couple from Centerville and 1 from Western.
I just heard from a couple of nights ago. Do I think they're too close? Because my
Yeah,
house is-
I was happy. I welcomed them.
Absolutely.
I said, come on down.
Okay. Today's Tuesday, July 22nd, 6:30 p.m. We're in the Fayette County Schools Corporation Admin Building. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. You have the floor.
So just really quickly before Gibraltar jumps in, just want to remind you of the purpose of bringing them here today. I know the last time that we met, we had some questions and there were some things that were proposed. The teams worked really, really hard, to their credit, on putting some things together. I know I sent you some preliminary drawings and some numbers here this past week to take a look at beforehand. Just want to remind you, and Randy, you can jump into this too, but really the goal is to set the ceiling, right, for the project. So there are things that are in the weeds that can be changed and adjusted as we move through, right? And so nothing is necessarily set in stone, but that project threshold, that cap essentially has to be what it is, which is essentially a not to exceed number. And so that's really the work that we're doing right now. We have lots of options that are in front of us. I think we've gotten to options 4A and 4B at this point in terms of the totality of the project, with some different options that are thrown in there as far as parking and different things. And so just want to set that out there. No formal board action will be taken this evening. We're just going to take that number that we determine to be or we think is the best path forward. And then we have some work to do. And the work would be to go ahead and get a notice out for a preliminary determination hearing. We'll get that to the newspaper tomorrow for that August 5th meeting, which will be that first preliminary determination hearing, with the 12th of August being the second. Both those require legal notice. Again, we'll get that in the paper. But yeah, so Randy, anything to add there before they get started?
Yep. I mean, like I said, I think just realize the key is to set that top end. This is given something that what the worst absolute outcome would be, that if we said the maximum amount's this, and then over the next 2 or 3 months we determine on exactly what the project is and a bid out, and it came in $1 million over that, then it's time to start making cuts and those kind of things. So, but the other side of it is you don't set the number so high that everybody goes, I'm not ever going to approve a project like that. You've got to be realistic, but you want to go to the high end.
And we also have to keep in mind our long-term planning of like things that are next, right? And so we know we have needs to address. I sent you guys a picture from Low Spartans this past week of some infrastructure needs there that we had to address this past week. Things aren't certainly perfect behind the walls everywhere, and so as we look at the Frazee project, which by the way is progressing nicely, I can't believe the number of people they have on the job site right now. They're working 610s right now and doing everything they can to get ready. But a lot of that work's behind the walls, right? So we're replacing all the piping and things there, and done a lot of that work at the high school as well. And so I think it's important to note that we have to be really careful. While we have, $32 to $40 million. Remember, if you remember that was kind of the range that they had talked about when we talked to our friends from Ice Miller and Baker Tilly in terms of what your bonding capacity could be. If you chose to take it all on at one time and chose maybe to do some things with tax rate, we had to be really careful because we don't want to paint ourselves in a corner either. So we can't bite off too much of a chunk with Eastview without being wise and understanding that we've got other buildings to take care of in the near future. So I say all that to say, that's the goal tonight, is to hopefully set a number that can be used as that ceiling for chasing after some bonds. So, guys,
Can I ask a question?
please.
I'd
Yeah,
ask
please.
you, but I knew we had tonight. You guys did study Little Spartans preschool, right? I just don't remember, that just kind of was kept over here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, when, how, I mean, you know, we've been working at this for 3 years, so I don't remember what the thinking was behind that. But obviously after this incident, and it is an older building, what do you remember about that?
It's funny because Superintendent Duncan had reached out to me I think earlier this week, later last week, when it actually happened. It was like, hey, I know I have it, but do you have it quicker? And we did have it quicker about the assessments that were done in the very beginning. And I went through and looked at, I mean, everything was kind of identified there, but I also remember that building kind of being on the back burner because you had recently invested to convert it. And because of that, it almost like it went ahead of some of the others because we knew the needs of the elementary schools.
Well, it might have gone ahead, I don't know what you mean by going ahead because we didn't do any work there really.
The kind of the refresh to convert the.
Yes, but not a deep dive.
No, not behind the walls or
Very
things like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But on the perception of like, someone that's coming in or the public that's coming in, like,
Right.
it was in much better condition
Yes.
from your eyes compared to the other schools. So I think that automatically like gives you comfort to think that, not you in general, but
Yeah,
just
right.
the general public to think of like, they just put money into that building. You know, why would they need to do that? Why are they doing crazy?
We had to put money into it.
Right, but I'm just saying now that we know, and I'm sure Daryl can tell us what else is behind the scenes there.
Todd spends a lot of time there too.
Yeah, Todd is, both of these are his buildings. So,
Okay, so then that, you know, that
But
changes the outlook after Eastview in lots of ways. I
Could.
mean, it could.
Yeah, it certainly could.
It could be back on the radar depending on our actions with the other buildings, because that is a well-used, full building.
It sure is.
but if you walked in there, Leslie, you wouldn't have seen that.
No.
That's
No, I
underneath-
realize that.
No, it's underneath that padding that we had to take off because we had a leak, and that's what led to it finding it was that.
Well, even when we found all the credit at the high school, wasn't it, and I was trying to remember that in the same context, that we didn't know the problems that we had in the high school building until we had a leak and had to get the plumber in there, and then we discovered it was not a little leak, it was, and we would have had, I think the Maplewood situation, when I saw that was, how would you know if there was no leak at the time?
Right.
And you're not gonna go digging up things if you don't have cause to go dig them up.
But it, you know, from an infrastructure standpoint, it still had some of the same challenges as
Oh, yeah.
all the buildings. If you remember, we did that one matrix where we looked at the cost of, you know, if we just did plumbing.
Yeah.
And you did all your elementary schools, the price tag was this.
Yeah.
So we looked at it from school by school or scope across the
Right,
district. And such a big task to just address plumbing at schools.
Right, but at some point, when we're done with this and we're now projecting forward, whenever that is, to what's next, I guess I would like to pull that back up to say, okay,
Yeah.
because we've just talked about Fayette Central, Everton, Grandview, well, Eastview and Everton, and Frazee, which is being done. So we haven't really explored that building, which is basically an elementary building, and we haven't looked at that as being on the horizon. I think it was kind of just put to the side.
And it was, I mean, remember, every facility was assessed, the career
Right.
center, all of it.
Yeah.
But as soon as we got through the assessment, we went
We
to.
narrowed it
Yeah.
to just the main
Because-
elementaries.
Yeah.
We did not have the gajillion dollars it was gonna take to fix everything.
Sure.
Well, we still don't.
We still don't, but.
All right, thank
No,
you.
those are good questions because, you know, we try to do those studies where, you know, Tri-County is a good example, 25 years of working there. They've gone through cycles of their study, but when they get one school done and then something else surfaces, they're pulling that off the shelf of like, oh, it's time for this school now. We know that we have to do this, this, and this. You know, what are some other things that have surfaced since then? So.
Yeah.
The nice thing, and I'll leave this up to Victor, is that, you know, as you continue to have contractors on site and you continue to have the ability of similar trades, you know, when a construction project's going on Eastview, we would be able to get some pricing and get some ideas of some of those like major items that don't cost a lot, but they cost a lot if you're doing it by itself in isolation,
Yeah.
when you already have some people mobilized.
Okay.
Those are good conversations, and that's kind of why I like this format.
Yeah.
So Superintendent Duncan mentioned the schedule, and you can kind of see that up there. I'm not going to spend time on slides that you have seen before, so we'll focus on some new slides. We did add some content here because I heard last time when we were having a conversation with liners, and I know that we're kind of moving forward, which I think is an excellent solution, for the pool. But Mike did a little bit of research from the original assessments, conversations with people that have been in the pool to provide a little bit more context about the background of the liner, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
thanks, Chris. A little bit more history about the existing pool and how the finish in the pool is developed to a membrane finish. The original pool was constructed with a painted concrete finish. Sometime after construction, years later, unbeknownst to us, the pool was refinished with the current finish, which is a fiberglass resin material. We learned of this during recent construction of the gutter. During our original assessment, by looking through the water, we had every reason to believe it was a plaster finish, and that's what we believe because the fiberglass, as I told you before, is very uncommon in a commercial pool industry, especially to a company like WTI is our pool consultant who's done thousands of pools across the United States as well as in other country. It's very unusual. He's never seen a fiberglass finish in a pool, so we had every reason to believe it was a plaster finish. So we wrote our documents around the plaster finish.
Is a plaster finish like a concrete finish?
No, it's a cementitious product. It's about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. It's plaster, and it's usually painted on there. So it looks like a very smooth finish. Unlike painted concrete where you might see form lines, imperfections of concrete, you can probably tell looking through the water that's painted concrete. But in this case, we had every reason, because of the smooth finish, we had every reason to believe that. So because of that, that's, like I said, that's how the documents came to be where we are today. Now, there really isn't any other option other than a membrane finish for this pool. And that's because if we try to do a plaster finish, the pool's going to get shorter. Okay? We don't want that. We want the pool to be as good as it is now, if not better. I think it's going to be better just because we propose to remove the tile and the mastic behind the tile. So you might be gaining a little bit of length. It may not be certifiable, but you are getting as good, if not better, situation that you have now. So again, that's why we think that the membrane is a good finish.
Thank you, Mike. That's a very good explanation. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Because the question was essentially, like, how do we not know, right? And so that does explain that very well in terms of, there was really no way to know, especially with a pool that's not drained, right?
Yeah.
And without cutting into a wall, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no way of knowing, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
And it's nothing against the decision of what was done to the pool in between original construction, because we don't know the reasons for that. There could have been something that was happening behind that they were trying to correct, and that was the best solution at the time to do that, so.
We do have a path forward with the PVC membrane, of course, and that we didn't want to hold up construction at all. Just so the board knows, I have spoken to a superintendent of a neighboring district who is willing to allow us to use the pool if we need to. And so that conversation has already started. And so thankful for that. But we're hopeful that we don't have to do that. We don't know yet, but we do have options if we get there. So.
The quick action on the board and your team to get that rolling certainly helps the situation, so. And I felt like we got some pretty favorable information from the contractor too, of the timing and all that, so.
And I hope Bob gets this in the paper. Just because I had a call from a patron who has been involved in government in Connersville. So, he's got a lot of experience with bids and construction and he questioned, how could you not know about this?
Mm-hmm.
And that, and I posed the same thing to Jeremy, because I don't think at our last meeting we were talking about the pool, we were talking about Eastview, and I don't know that any of us asked the right questions to get at that answer. So I appreciate the clarity today. That makes a lot of sense. And like you say, it's very uncommon to have a fiberglass finish. Yeah.
And so that pool construction was on pause for a little bit of time. I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of guys there working just because we were waiting on the answer to that question, but also we're waiting on some delays and other things as far as making sure that they knew the path forward. My understanding is that now the next step is to pour concrete. I don't know if you guys know this, you haven't been on site.
Yeah, we replaced the gutter's set, so there's a gap between the bottom of the gutter and the original concrete we're going to fill, so that's the next step.
That's the next step. So yeah, that should hopefully happen soon. I know they covered some things today to get ready.
But we've also ordered the liner, which is,
Yep.
we need to get that delivery date nailed down again.
You guys are probably about 5 months ahead of a very similar project in a different part of Indiana. And it was a proud small community, much smaller than your community, but very proud in the sense of that they had a pool. But their pool had come into disrepair over the years and they needed to determine, do we invest in it or do we fill it in? And with the swim clubs, and I mean, you guys know the benefits beyond just swim teams, like it's used constantly and what it can do for a community. And so they made a decision to invest, very similar, again, just a little bit ahead of you. And I went to go see it recently and it is like they're having a ribbon cutting. It is amazing. And to them, like, this is a brand new pool and very similar scope of what you are doing to your pool. They did the exact same thing and it is their brand new pool that's going to drive their community for the next 20 years.
That's awesome.
From an enrollment standpoint too, they have something unique that and so they draw people in because of their pool, because they have one and most schools around don't. So
Awesome.
anyways, just want to share that of what's just around the corner for you guys. All right, we're gonna, again, I can go back to these items if you would like to go back to these items, but these are slides that you have seen where we started with the programming. Do want to thank Katie spent a little bit of time with us on 2 separate occasions where we wanted to dive a little bit deeper on the options with her. And then we also talked about playground placement, consolidation, where she's invested recently, where she is, willing to, what her ultimate goal for what's next for the playground, which was very helpful for us to get a better understanding of the site and how she envisions it being used. So I want to be thankful for her time that she gave to us. You've seen, Mike's going to just refresh you on the ones that you've seen. We're going to move to 2 options that you have not seen, which was a continuation of our last conversation that we had. And then we're going to turn it over to Victor, who's going to walk us through the cost, expected cost of the different options.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Again, this is a reminder of what we presented last time. The only thing different about this is I just recently discovered that Eastview is the roof on Eastview is beyond its service level, unlike the other schools in the district. So we added scope to this project, a re-roof on this. So that otherwise everything else is the same as what we talked about last time. And that's true for all the options.
Some other additional work that was done behind the scenes. Thank you to Victor. He had sent someone out to get us some more detailed information on the site elevation, to get us an understanding of like how much is that drop, where does it start? Not from our eyes and from our civil drawings, but actually from some work that he had done out there to get us some more information. So thank you, Victor, for your team.
The site option is typical for the other options. Again, new parking. That also shows how parents can queue up in the parking lot and get a lot of that traffic off the streets, and any site-related work to whatever addition is shown. We will have to deal with stormwater management on this property, and it probably will, if water flows down, probably will be in this area here. And so again, stormwater management is included in all the options. Oops, wrong way. Am I going the wrong way? Sorry.
Yeah, here we go.
Sorry.
Here we go, here we go.
So sensitive. Wow. Okay, you've seen this option. This was the option that probably didn't gain much traction last time we met. Again, it has a re-roof included. What you haven't seen are a couple options coming up here with conversations from Katie, Jeremy, and others in Skillman. This option here is kind of a spin-off of what the owner was asking us to do. You know, put the addition next to the cafeteria. This option is basically built on the side of the hill. So it can get really expensive when you're doing that.
Can you explain, on this one, you've got 3B, 3A. I thought we have original and then 4 or 4A and 4B, so now
Yeah, these are renamed 3A and 3B.
Okay.
It was getting so complicated with all these different options.
So these are the old 4A and 4B?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right,
Okay,
'cause I was
Yeah, but
confused as
just-
well.
just
Thank
from
you,
where-
Leslie.
Just from where they're located, because the issue that Katie had was the placement of the original, and it was in proximity to the cafeteria and the other things that the kids, so the kids wouldn't have to go through, all the way through the building to access these kinds of
But
things.
I understand that 3B is the original one you just showed us, right?
Actually, 3B is taking 3A and putting it where 3B is shown.
And I can explain where we're,
And the reason for that, and you'll see in this section coming up, there's very complicated construction building on the side of the hill. There's also a basement in this option. We were asked to look at what would it cost if we just put the floor plan that you see there on the south end of the building. Still a pod concept. The pod concept was real favorable with Katie, keeping everybody in one area, life skills in one. Not go down the hall to a sensory classroom, not go down the hall to a laundry room or whatever. It's like a typical classroom pod, and that's what you're seeing here. Everything's self-contained. You don't have kids walking through down your corridor
Right,
from the
right.
bus to get to wherever. It's off to the side, and that's what this represents
so if
here.
you remember option 1, back in the very beginning, we had it on the south
South end.
end, where we created this hybrid, again, with feedback.
So
from
south
Katie.
end, where the 3B is,
Mhm.
that's, okay, and then 3A, I don't remember that option. Is that the classroom?
This is new.
Yeah, it's
Oh, is 3A the red classrooms?
Yes.
correct, yeah.
It's just over there on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
So if you look at this, if you look at this in section, the hill, I don't know if you can see this line right here. That's your existing grades, okay? This shows like, what if you put a basement down there? What would it take to do that? You would have to have much deeper walls and foundations to get below the existing grade as you go further, is it west? Towards the running track.
Would be to the west.
East,
Yes.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So this kind of gives you an idea, you've got a 2-story building basically here. And if you did that, then you have to also consider, well, how do you get from the lower level to the parking lot? If you've got vehicles parked in there, or if you've got equipment, how do you get it up that hill? So this would also include a road, a paved road to get from the lower level to the upper level. So this kind of shows you, kind of explains to you a little bit the concept and how option 3 would work. With a discussion with Skillman and their estimator is option 4. It's basically the same floor plan in this location, but regrade the hill so you're building on a level pad, okay? And forget about the basement, forget about all these deep walls and foundations. We also include a standalone storage building, like a metal storage building. It's much less cost than trying to build this basement. It's really expensive, as Victor's about to show you. So this option also shows a standalone metal storage building, replacing the garage. It also shows a new life skill play area next to the classrooms, regrading of the site.
Can't read. Oh, okay. Where's the metal storage?
Over here, right here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we understand the playground in this area here is kind of obsolete, and Katie was talking about having one centralized playground in this area here. So these would include improvements for a playground, especially when you do the parking over here. But yeah, this option here, we believe, is probably the most responsive option to everything we've heard and talked about. And it's probably what Jeremy and Randy are talking about. Maybe we should be looking at what it takes to do something like this.
So definitely, if you were to build out to the west, we feel like this would be an option that kind of checks multiple boxes from Katie's programming standpoint to the grading that would need to be resolved. And if additional storage is needed beyond what the building allows, and based on Katie's vision for where the playgrounds are going and playground consolidation, you have some space on that southwest corner.
Where your cursor is now pointed, is that the bus?
Yeah, right now the
Area.
bus is here.
Okay.
So see this entry right here? That's where the students would come in from the
Okay.
buses through this corridor, through a vestibule, down this corridor here. There'll probably be a door between the life skills pod area, so kids aren't walking in that area. But it's out of the way of main circulation patterns for kids coming in on the bus.
So that is still a method of egress. That V just means vestibule.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then again, everything else in the building is everything's similar to like we just did at Frazee, except for the re-roof.
Gotcha.
Would we be able to expand upon out away from that if we had to?
No. I only say that because you've got the track here, and there's not, you also have to be careful about not sloping the grade so much that you can't mow it. We got to be careful about that. And we'll study that a little bit further if this option gains traction with you. But to answer your question, no, I would not anticipate ever having an addition going to the east off this option.
Wait,
But
west would be.
West, I'm sorry.
Exactly. But you still have the ability to build to the south if you choose.
Yeah, and you still have the ability, if you wanted to put something in this corner here, you probably could. Another 1 or 2 classrooms maybe in the future. But you have to keep in mind, we still want to keep access to the playground, because this is really the only way we can get to the playgrounds is through this door and around. We'll also make a sidewalk, so if they're coming, let's say down this wing, a sidewalk to get to the playgrounds here. But really, these 2 exits here, we probably need to consider access to the playground area as well.
So one of the things that's come out of my conversations with Kate over the course of time is the fact that, Randy and I've been over there twice this week just to look and to check out what's happening. This fence here has been removed. And therefore she's added parking. I don't know how many spots we've added there.
20, I think.
20 or 22.
20. So it's considerable parking. And I say that only to say that I'm concerned, Kate's concerned about the parking, and she expressed that to us. As far as the grade on that side of the building, the ability to make that happen, pushing into her potential playground area. So I say all that to say that I don't know that we necessarily need to invest $1.3 million in parking.
Do you think where the bus turns around, there'd be some spaces there enough, like when the buses aren't there, or is that where there'd be parking?
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're using it for now. That's where the 20+ spots have been added already.
And these are one of those ideas that you could value out. For example, if you don't want to impact the current playgrounds, you could possibly, let's say, see where this asphalt is here? Maybe you eliminate this row of parking here and move the pavement over, and you have fewer parking spaces in this area.
How many parking spaces are out to the north by the kindergarten rooms?
I would guess 15 to 18 if that.
It's mostly teachers park there, correct?
Yes,
And
yes.
so when Eastview has a big event, where do people overflow parking? Are they parking on the road in front of the building?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
In the grass area down there.
Okay.
They park
And
over
Great
at
Church.
Fountain Place, over in the apartments
Okay.
also.
Mike, with this one, I would like to show you something, have Todd Sutler and show you something we looked at this week to see what you think about it, if it would work. You want to show that room? So there's a room over there, what do we call it, Todd?
They call it the Butler Room, it's off the library. And it is over here, where's the library? Here, flex room. This is solid wall, but it's like a breezeway if you tore a wall down where you could have outside access to this playground from the building.
It would go straight through and not affect anything. So I don't know if that's another option we can look at.
What does that take away? I mean, does that take away another?
Nothing really, they're really small rooms. I mean, you couldn't have a classroom or anything in this. It's more like a breezeway. I think I measured it 11 feet and they just had a little office in the front of it here, but it'll go all the way out to the back in that, the cubby corner.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Appreciate that.
definitely good to have something like that in the back pocket if you were to add on the music and you want to create a different corridor to get direct access to the playground right there, right off the cafeteria, so.
But Jeremy, if you're saying, are you saying eliminate that entire parking lot?
I look at the price tag, and we
Right.
looked at the elevation out there too, and I don't know how you guys feel about that elevation change when it comes to that parking lot, but it's considerable. I mean, Kate has told us that, and has been concerned about that. It's a $1.3 million price tag for that parking lot, as we've said so far. This feels like a lot of money to spend on it. It makes you wonder, like, if we've already added parking in the back of the building, right? Is there a solution? If we're trying to get people off the road for pickup in the morning, could that just be a drive, right? That comes through that way? Like,
For all
that could be potential.
the various schools we have, that road in the front is not a high-traffic road like in front of Fayette Central, in front of Everton, in front of Grandview.
Or Frazee.
Or Frazee. So, and I don't know with the current parking arrangement, apparently, people are able to watch their kids do whatever, so there's enough street parking wherever. Do people park on the grass anywhere?
Yes.
On that right side?
But some of them park, they're down by the church too, and just walk up,
Yeah,
a lot of them use the church parking lot, Grace Church's parking lot, and just walk up the hill.
Yeah.
One of the things we're gonna have to look at, if we do away with that, is that parking lot in the front is where we pick up with the buses in the afternoon. It is only 4 inches, and we are going to destroy it if we keep parking 8 buses on it. Is something we need to look at. We may have to booster that up a little bit.
So why don't you run the buses on that south side like
We have
Jeremy's
like 8 or 10 buses sitting there in the afternoon because we have transfer buses coming from the high school, and from the middle school and everything. So we have more buses there going out.
Well,
And are you saying that the concrete or whatever
The pavement's only
the
4
pavement-
inches. Anytime the size of our bus is like, we need 6, or you'll tear it
So
down.
that would be an added cost if we take out.
It could be. I mean, we could go back to the road, but what happens is if a kid runs between those buses, they're in the road, and we had a lot of stop arm violations, and this was a way to stop it, is getting them off the
Sure.
into the parking lot. But in the mornings, we only have 4 buses plus 2 special ed buses that are there before us. In the afternoon, we have 6 to 8 that come in and transfer to Everton and everything else, so.
But, all right, currently, do all the buses just go in the front? Or do you have some going on that
In
side?
the morning, we all go in that back entrance back there, because
Okay.
we have 4 buses and 2 special ed buses. 2
So-
special ed buses are there like 10, 15 minutes before my other 4. And then in the afternoon, we got 6 buses sitting in that parking lot waiting for buses to come from the high school, middle school, to give us the middle
Other
school and the
kids.
high school and anybody else. So we use that parking lot in the front so we can unload safely and load safely.
Okay.
Can you show us those price estimates?
And as he's transitioning to that, I gather from the conversation with Katie saying I think she's coming off the relief that she got from the additional parking recently, that, that
Oh.
helped a
Right.
little bit. And her thought too is that if that could be shrunk down or considered, towards the last of the priorities, that there's other things that are more important.
Okay, why do we have option 4? I thought we got rid of 4. What's 4? Is 4 3B?
No, 4 is the last option you just showed you.
Yeah, the final one that we just showed.
Quiz later.
Jeremy, are you at all confused?
This is option
You have a
4.
little-
This is
Yeah.
option 4.
I don't see a 3, okay, there's not a 3A and 3B there, correct?
Right. And then
In the estimate,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the
Well, there is an
option.
option 3.
So you have option 1, which is the original one that we first showed you on the south
What's that?
end.
Which-
But you also have roofing that's added to that, which is why the number's a little bit
That
different.
option 1 includes the roofing.
That's correct.
Victor and I spoke today about this. If you don't mind,
Oh,
let
no,
Victor
no,
walk
no.
you through what you're looking at.
Sure.
Sure. Option 1 is option 1 we had
Got that.
before. The only difference is that we've added roofing.
Correct.
That's the
was
one
there.
on the south end of the building that basically Kate did not care for.
That's the very first option we got.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the one that would, proximity issues for the special ed kids.
Yes, that's on the south end of the building.
Okay, I'm good. Down by Fountain.
We did,
Yes.
what they showed earlier was a 3A or a 3B on their drawings. 3A was west, 3B was in the same location as option 1, but in a pod configuration,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
So because it's a pod up configuration, we use the term option 3. We presented the option 3 here that has the basement in it. So the only real difference between option 3 and option 4 is option 4 does not have a basement. Option 3 is in the same location, it's the same configuration for the parking lot, it's the same renovations of the school. Everything is the same between 3 and 4 except 4 does not have a basement.
But 4 has the storage building included.
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
So maybe the better way to frame this conversation is that we have options ranging from 16 million to 17.65. And there are some options that were cut or reconfigured or reconsidered. You know, there are options in between that two number range. But that is the range of options the board has seen, and we've discussed the pros and cons.
And with that, I do want to say this, that not doing in addition to Eastview is still on the table, right? And that initial number was 8.8 million.
Right.
If you had the re-roofing on top of that, then you're looking at what, 9.5, right? So if we said, you know what, that price tag is pretty steep, right? It essentially doubles the price of the project to add the addition. Is that too much to chew off at this point in time? We're just going to do what we've done at Frazee, essentially, plus the re-roof, plus a little lessons learned, a couple things that we didn't get done at Frazee that we probably should have had in the project. That would be that 9.5-ish with the roof being redone, right? That is still very much a possibility. Now remember, contextually, your Frazee project cost was 6.1 million to start, is going to end up being just shy of 6.5-ish. That's what we've asked for permission to spend. I don't think we're going to get quite that high. We might be in the 6.2, 6.3 range. But that's where we're at with Frazee, right? So some of these price tags, and I'm just being honest, are, you know, almost 3 times, right? So that's pretty substantial. Now, we take care of a special ed need, right, that we know we have. We create some margin for the future if we need additional classrooms. We take care of lots of, obviously, regular needs with HVAC work and everything else, which would be covered if we just did the base, right, if we did the 9.5. I say that to say it's not listed here, but I want you to know that's still on the table.
Can you tell me what's different from what did we add besides the roofing, or is that the only thing we add, from the original 9.5?
The difference between the
parking.
What's that? Sorry.
Parking
You said
additions are the 2 biggest pieces.
Parking and roof.
You were asking about like the base option?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
The
nine.
roofing
So the addition of
was
the
something you didn't do at Frazee. It's the only building that had roofing on it.
Yeah, so if you said you're gonna do the base, no additional parking, that would be that 9.5, right? You could say you're gonna do one of these options and then pull away the 1.3 for parking, right, which brings that down to a more manageable number.
Doing the base, does that really, I guess my question is, we have needs for special needs classrooms. Is the base really going to be the most effective way to do that, or is it sticking a Band-Aid on something that's only going to bleed a couple of years down the road?
Yeah, it's a good question. You can address your special education needs with the base without doing the addition. You're just not gaining any extra space. What I mean by that is, if you can go back really quickly, you could, and you guys slap me or throw something at me if I'm wrong, but you could conceivably You know, here where it says music and art, these are currently 2 of your 3 self-contained special ed classrooms, right? One of those has a restroom, the other one does not, right?
Yeah, but the restroom is barely adequate.
Yes, this is your 3rd special, self-contained special ed classroom right here. You'll see there's no restroom there, okay? So there could be a world that exists though, where you say, you know what, music, art, and flex are gonna be our 3 self-contained special ed classrooms. We're throughout the construction process gonna add a restroom, tell me if I'm crazy, to this classroom and this classroom to take care of that restrooming need, right? We're not gonna gain capacity in the building though, understand that, right?
Okay.
And we do have more special needs, severe special needs kids coming, right? And so
Okay.
we do see a need at some point in time for a 4th classroom in our elementary buildings. We could make a decision to put 2 in Frazee, 2 in Eastview. Like you could do that, makes it more difficult because of OT services,
We've done that before.
PT services, like all the things you do. It's nice to have them in one place so you can service all those children together. But there's nothing that says you can't do that, and then in a couple years from now, you could look at it and say, you know what? We're at capacity, we need to address that. You could do that, right? And that could be an option. And so, you know, that 9.5 that we just discussed might, if you had some restrooms, it's probably going to become something different, of course. You might be at $10 million, right, instead of 9.5. But that could be an option. This is one of the things that Kate and I talked about too, and one of the things I tried to, Randy and I went over and looked today. There are some walls in these rooms that can very easily be taken down. There's no reason why these classrooms can't be regular classrooms too, right? And so you could move your special needs classrooms here, right? Or somewhere else, or you could move your art and P classrooms here. Like you have tons of options, right? Within the context of what you're working with. So I say all that to say that there are options, right? What the board needs to decide, what you need to decide is, what is our threshold? What do we feel comfortable spending on the project, right?
Is there a way, instead of an addition, if you took what are currently kindergarten and first, and, you know, kind of, again, I know Kate said she really likes to have the kids, you know, be close to the cafeteria, close up to the specials and those things, but we must have enough space, because the kids are currently there, that if we made the 3 classrooms, or in the possible 4th one being the other first grade or whatever, as their own area, not a pod, but their own area, then those classrooms could go somewhere else, kindergarten and first grade, correct?
Could. Generally speaking, your kindergarten classrooms are going to have a larger footprint,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so you'll see, and those 2
Yeah,
classrooms are
yes.
larger, and that's for a reason, right? Those kids are up, they're moving, like they're very active.
Right.
You typically have larger classrooms. Chris, you can probably speak to this better than I can, but typically kindergarten classrooms are that way for a reason. And they obviously have their own restrooms as well, which makes a big difference for those little guys who have to go like now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chris, am I right when I say that? But that's not to say that's a completely limiting factor, but you would have to move your kindergarten classrooms somewhere different, right? So.
And they wouldn't have the square footage that those rooms
No,
have.
because of the regular classrooms, the kindergarten classrooms are considerably larger than the rest of them, and to try to squish this. What are our projections as to our, you just kind of referred to our special needs kids that are going to, we've had them in different buildings before in the past, and we moved them all to one place because it was determined it was the most efficient and the most effective thing, but they do require space. So looking down the line, are we looking at an increase in that student population? My thing, and I don't like the money, trust me, but I don't want us to be penny wise and pound foolish either, because if we put some of this stuff off, it's not going to get any less expensive. And if we have these needs for these kids, and we know that we have this many next year, but this year, but next year we're going to have more, then to be able to plan effectively for that, even though it might be a little bit more expensive at the outset, might be the better way to go, because we'll have a plan and we're not we're being proactive as opposed to being
Sure.
reactive.
Yeah, Mrs. Gilman has indicated to me several times, and Mrs. Cursaro as well, that we are seeing more children, Mallory as well, at our preschool with more severe needs. And Megan's been in our ear about this, that there's a good chance that we'll have to add that fourth
Okay.
severe special needs classroom in our elementary. I don't have like exact
Well,
figures for you,
yeah.
but she's made that very clear that is
Well,
definitely something
and
we're gonna have to
again,
look at.
if we know that we're going to need that fourth classroom, and we can develop a plan now that includes that in it, and we can come up with the money to, we're going to have to put money into the school, period, no matter what.
As you walk and talk through this plan, just understand and realize that there are 3 flex classrooms in this floor plan. 3 flex classrooms.
What do you mean by that, 3
So
They're not assigned to a grade level right now, so if your grades grow, you have a place to grow into.
But aren't these
Where are
being used
those?
for,
The one that
aren't
says
they being used for
Yes,
art?
yes.
Art
That's just one
music.
room though.
Can we put
There's
that?
three.
There's 3 flex classrooms.
Oh, I see the other one.
What are
What are they
It's
used
a
for
2
now?
It's a 2-section school
Right.
with room to grow into those 3 flex
What are those
classrooms.
rooms used for now?
Art and-
I could tell you.
Wait, what's that face?
I don't think there's 3 there that they don't use, but
This
The
is no, we're
proposed
saying with the
solution.
addition.
If
The
you pull the
proposed
life skills out.
Oh, if you
Yeah.
pull life skills
Yeah,
out,
if you
okay. I
build
was like, I don't
4,
think
you
that's-
pull 3 out of it,
Right, then you free
therefore
up.
you gain 3.
So part of the initial discussion around the addition to handle the special needs of the building was also to gain capacity in the event that we get to the place and our building inventory changes, right? And we have to look at closing a school.
Right,
Not a conversation any of us want to have, but at the same time, let's be honest, we've lost kids continually, right? And you can't
Right.
continue to operate the same way. I'm not saying that's happening, but at the same time, we had to plan just in case. So that would allow us to gain some capacity in the building if we'd have to take on additional students. And so that was part of the thought behind an addition would be to gain extra room, right? Which is what you're doing there, to their point, as far as those flex spaces. And so you're essentially, like I said, just shifting those kids to the new addition and gaining space
Yes.
within the old, so.
And within their current way that they function, they really do, they use up every space, like even the.
Every single space.
There is an office for the PE that leads into the cafeteria that is like and they're doing groups in there. So they maximize it and they don't have that breathing room or the flexibility of, if Randy comes and says, hey, your kindergarten group, you're gonna have to pop another classroom for kindergarten this year because of your growth in kindergarten. There are not a lot of options for the school. So part of the reason in the beginning is the life skills pod builds capacity for you in the future in the sense that you have some efficiencies by bringing the program underneath one roof, from shared resources, from all of your OT, your PT, all of that being in one space helps. But then it also helps the building in general to give some breathing room for that flexibility.
Well, Eastview is crowded. I
Yeah,
mean,
very.
there's not a whole lot of, you call them flex space, well, those flex spaces are your art, your music, your other things that you need to send a kid someplace for a little bit, and you have a spot to put them.
And when we design them that they could be, you can put any grade level in there. You can
Okay.
put a special ed, you can put a resource, you can put, they're meant to be flexible, and that's why we call them flex.
Can I ask, when you did the facilities study, what prompted you to think the roof was okay, that you discovered it wasn't?
We didn't,
We missed it.
on our assessment here, I missed telling Victor to include that in the budget estimate for Eastview. It was in our assessment as the roof was beyond service life. I didn't pick up on it until this morning, actually, and I asked them to include the re-roof in the project. And
So
I
it's in
talked
the
with-
facility study,
Yes.
it just wasn't included.
It was it is in there. And I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, it just wasn't communicated as part of the plan.
yeah, last time we met as a board, we didn't have that in there, and
Yeah.
we feel it should be included.
But honestly, we kept having the mindset of aligning this remodel with Frazee, and I don't think we went back to the assessment.
Yeah, we were so focused, do everything like Frazee that.
Make sure we
forgot
don't miss
to-
anything
about the
from
roof.
Frazee, and that was where
Well,
we missed it.
when you're trying to deal off a template like Frazee, and it's a different building, yeah.
Yeah, so I think everything that we got estimated here is Eastview.
And we, again, are trying to build a budget to Jeremy's point earlier, that we don't go back to the board and ask for more money, so.
Well,
If we didn't do the parking lot, that does take $1 million off.
Yeah, it's 1.3, right, which is pretty substantial. And so when you look at those figures, you know, you could do, you know, option 4, which I hear from you, you feel like is the most responsive to the concerns and things that you've heard so far. Am I right when I say that? So you take that off and you're close to 15, right? Just a hair over.
There's furniture allowances, the furniture,
Well,
is that
and-
bad or is?
And everything that has a percent from it, from soft
Yeah.
cost to contingency, that would shrink too, if you take off the,
I mean, I've got my spreadsheet here, so if you want to ask me what happens, I can tell you.
Yeah, what happens when you remove that parking from
So if
option?
I move,
To answer Sasha's question about the furniture allowance, that's standard for most of the buildings, right? If there's and is that the cabinetry, is that?
No, it's loose furnishings, like tables, chairs, things like that.
yeah, so what we did is to update all of your furniture in the building as part of that renovation. Now, your point is well taken, though, is that this also includes new furniture for 4 special ed rooms. So I believe that we actually started with $330,000 allowance because basically I put $120,000 in for those 4 classrooms. So if I reduce that allowance to $330,000 and I deleted the parking lot, that actually brings us down to about 14.8, 14.9. So it's under 15 million by making, I shouldn't have done that. I got ahead of myself.
Let me ask you.
Leave the, you said take the parking lot out. Let's
Yeah,
not
the
touch
furniture,
the-
if we did
let's
option 4, we would still need that.
We still have.
Yes.
We would need
Right,
that.
Right,
right, that's what I was
I
gonna
thought
say.
you were gonna ask me to take the addition off.
And I remember back at the beginning with the facility
Still
study, we
15
talked
million.
about the furniture, and we talked about it being outdated or what wasn't great about it. I don't recall, because that was a long time ago.
that was 3 years ago.
But I think we were in agreement that it was time for an upgrade with that. I mean, it is a cost, but.
and you guys have, as I've looked at all your buildings, and I look at it from that lens, so I'm not looking
Yeah.
at pipes, I'm looking at furniture and things like that, but you have done what they've needed, you know, like, you know, as education's evolved, and, you know, if they need a podium, or if they need this, a small group table, like, you've done that. You also notice as you go through, they've done some things on their own too. They brought like, oh, I got this table off of Teachers Pay Teachers, or I got this from and so they've added some. When you do a renovation similar to what you saw in Shelbyville, it is really, really hard to put get a new pair of shoes and put your old shoelaces back in it. It just doesn't look the same, so.
I will also say that I would say in the range of furniture budgets, that's a pretty modest one. Randy has a lot of history, so, I mean, I've had budgets much higher than that in other school districts, so don't feel like we're putting the Taj Mahal furniture budget
No,
here.
I just wanted to address Sasha's question, because I know that, you know, that's one area that one could look at and say, well, that's expendable, because, I mean, if we have to do the renovations, we have to do site work, you know, but that's one that's.
We don't want to some of those desks have been there for 30 years. Yeah, I mean,
But most of the older stuff's better than the new junk.
Yeah.
Just something, not
You're
all.
probably
Yeah.
right, if it's lasted that long.
Yeah.
And we did, just as a reminder, we did address the furniture needs of both Frazee and Fayette Central through ESSER dollars, and so that's been expended, that's done, right? So we didn't have to include that in the Frazee budget, nor would we if we chose to go after Fayette Central as far as renovation work, so. But yeah, I think to Leslie's point and to Chris's point, I would not want to put a bunch of old furniture back into a new construction. But I will tell you that teachers are resourceful. We will see old furniture pop its way into our Frazee classrooms. We already have. So, but my thought on that is, as much as aesthetically, I kind of go, whatever they need to best educate kids, like, it's okay, like, it'll be all right.
I think I remember when we walked through Shelbyville, you know, we went into some classrooms that were done and some that weren't, and some hallways that were partially done, and I do remember going into a room that had some work done, but it had the old furnishings in there, and it really, stood out in a not so
I wanted to
fabulous.
share an interesting project I worked on in Illinois. Illinois has some very low-budget projects, and we designed a new elementary school, and on opening, and because of the budget, they cut loose furnishings out. Well, on opening day, can you imagine walking into a brand-new building, whether it's remodeled or not, and seeing 1960s furniture in that classroom?
Oh, yeah.
You can see the picture, and that's probably,
The
It's
desk
so
that
old,
you
it's
open
cool
from
again.
the top
Yeah.
and you slam.
yes, there you go.
With the laminate tops and the aluminum on them, oh, yeah.
So if we were to go with option 4, and again, we're just setting the ceiling, right? There's a lot of things that'll be determined along the way, a lot of conversations that will be had around tables that include Kate and Mrs. Gilman and different folks who will be helping to determine the very specifics of the work. But if we were to go with option 4, I'm hearing that if we pull out the parking, that we're gonna be somewhere in that $15 million range, okay? By differential, if you were to do just what we've done at Frazee, right, you're gonna be somewhere in that $9.5 to $10 million range. So it's a $5 million differential
But it,
To do
in
the
order to
pods.
do the addition,
Yeah, the-
but does it,
to gain some capacity, to better serve those special needs children. So the question is that worth that $5 million price tag? And that really, I think, is the question right now that's on the table for us. Those differentials, obviously, option 3, which is with the garage, we've determined, these guys have just flat out told me, Jeremy, this is a bad idea. Like,
Yeah.
we'll get fumes from things into classrooms, like, I don't know if that's even safe for kids. It's not, I mean, in my mind, another $1 million could build a really nice storage building that would be separate
Where's
from
the, where's
that
the metal
building.
storage building in the figuring?
Is that
What
carried
view?
under the related site
Well,
work?
if he was like,
I think it's buried in
the house,
the
but
building
like,
addition number.
why
There's
can't
a
we have the,
garage
why
and
can't
an
we have the
addition
career
over
center
it.
built that for us?
I don't
So I
know.
I
guess-
mean, I think even there, we were,
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
Yeah, and that type of storage.
it's in there. I'm sure we can do that.
Yeah.
I think we were thinking 1,200 square feet, so the high end, $100,000. I mean, I think we got that kind of flexibility if you want to go to that extreme. I'm sure you can get it for a lot less than that. We want to make sure you didn't get something less than what you had currently.
Right, right.
Jeremy, 2 things can we consider? If we take that parking lot out, can we redo the front parking lot to make
Yeah,
it stronger?
sure, absolutely.
And can we not consider moving any special ed somewhere else?
I say
That's a-
absolutely. We could do whatever we decide to do, right?
I just know that's a nightmare for us, and I won't have enough drivers. We had to do that to cover what we're doing. If
Say
we
that
moved-
one more time. I wanna
If
make
we
sure I
took a couple
understand.
special ed class, like somebody mentioned, and took them to another school again.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
no.
a nightmare
We're gonna
for
be
the
the whole
busing.
people.
Oh.
Yeah,
It is-
and I didn't even mention that earlier when I said
No.
OTPT and services like that. Busing would be a nightmare too. So
No.
that's not an ideal scenario for any of us to enroll. I would rather almost redraw district boundaries. I'm not doing this, but
Right.
redraw boundaries to push our gen ed population to a different building and clear up some space at Eastview for those special needs kids to be in one place than I would to do
Well,
that.
we had them in multiple buildings. We had kids out at Fayette Central, we had kids at Eastview, we had kids at the middle school, we had kids at the high school. It just didn't work well. It wasn't an ideal situation for anybody, and it was bad for parents, it wasn't good for the kids. They need the consistency, and I think they do better in a consistent environment.
Randy, in your past experience, I know you're not Ice Miller, but if the board would decide to set the project threshold, the not to exceed number at 16 or at 17 or at 15, and we decide then as a board or a group to go ahead and do the $10 million without the addition, like what does that look like? What's that timeline look like as far as when they would have to formally decide, here's the number that we're going to chase after in terms of the bond?
Go clear back to your slides at the beginning with the timeline that we looked at. Where we are now, discussing it, okay, right here. If you look at September, finalized project schedule for production and bidding, that's the point. I mean, we can set the 15 million, we're okay, but at that point, is where we're going to need to be able to tell Gibraltar and Skillman, here's what we're really doing.
Yeah.
We're not talking about 12 options now. We are going to do this, and we need to start producing those
That's a
bid
good
documents.
point. You would give us approval to proceed, tell us what you would want us to design as alternates to protect it, and that would be after that 30-day waiting period after August 12th.
Right.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Okay,
In September.
Appreciate that.
So we've got a couple, a little less than 2 months.
So, and I, to piggyback on your question, so it's like you are seeking authorization for, at the project hearing, to go for 15, 16, but by September, you would decide if that addition is a go or no-go. You'd still be able to move forward with bond sales for 10 to do just what you've determined, but you would still have that flexibility.
Yeah, because what you also don't get into, well, right now for the bond process to start, we need to set that high max. What we don't do is that we say we're getting $16 million for the ECU project, but we changed our mind, we're only going to do the basic and we're going to do 10 million. We can't pocket or repurpose that 6 million. So, and I don't mean pocket as anything illegal, but we can't go for 16 million and then do a $10 million project and go, well, let's just slide the $6 million to the high school or to Grandview or whatever.
It has to be very
It has to be on the
It has to
ECU
be-
project.
it has to be
Ultimately, it has to be for the ECU
Specific
project.
per project.
Right.
Okay.
So again, I think the question for the board is whether or not that $5-ish million price tag is worth what we're after, right? Or do we go after a Frazee-like project at Eastview that essentially covers the basics of nuts and bolts, HVAC, plumbing, all those things that we fix. Roof obviously is a new addition, but all of those things to keep Eastview in operable shape for years to come? Or do we want to do that plus gain some capacity and better serve those special needs children? That probably sounds bad because we can do that even in the context of the $10 million
We are serving our
project.
special
Well, we
needs.
are
Yes,
serving,
I didn't mean that to sound bad because we are servicing those kids very well. But to give them more space, probably a better area that is
And to
more
meet the
conducive
future
to.
needs.
and to better meet the future needs of
Yes.
that population.
Yes.
And I also want to say, looking at that time schedule, as we have it, to meet the legal requirements, you look in the audience and we have two people that are very interested in the school district there, but the reason for the August 5th meeting and the August 12th meetings are if anybody in the public strongly feel we ought to do this or strongly oppose that we shouldn't do that, that is the public's time to come to the project hearing. They will have time on the agenda to say, I like this, or I don't like that, or any of those kind of things. It's the transparency of the process that allows the public to express their concerns.
At those meetings, is Ice Miller at one of those meetings, or both
Yes.
of those meetings?
And Baker Tilly would be
And
here, we would be here, and Skillman would be here.
Both meetings or just one?
They should be at both
Okay.
public consideration
Yeah.
hearings.
Okay. Is that an opportunity to look forward beyond Eastview? The money coming off of the
Middle
middle school and
Most definitely.
bonding capacity, geo bonds that we've had that now are under restriction where we can only get those every 2 years.
There's a cooling off period now, yeah.
Right. So building a timeline would be really important, at least, I mean, in theory, we're not gonna, it's nothing carved in stone, but getting an idea then, that's what I need. Before I can say what I think is the best route for Eastview, I need to see our dollars project out 5 to 10 years to see where will we be. Of course, we won't know at the legislature, but.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that can change, of course,
I
with the
know.
course of time, and that's what makes it very difficult to mesh, to firmly mesh, that debt picture with the facility study. Like it's difficult just because it's not. If you would have, these numbers would look drastically different 4 years ago, right?
Right.
As they will probably look different in 4 years from now. And so
It's not gonna get any less expensive to do anything.
that's where it becomes difficult to firmly mess it, but I agree with you, Leslie, 100%, that it's difficult to make a decision without knowing firmly what that picture looks like, because we don't want to paint ourselves in the corner. I will tell you, if that's the thinking, then a more conservative approach obviously makes sense, right? Regardless, so, that $10 million bottom end, if you will, probably would be the more conservative approach to do that. If we want to make sure, and even, I say make sure, like we know even with that total bonding capacity, if we took out the full $32 to $40 million right now, we did some things with tax rate, we still couldn't address every need in our corporation.
Right, but that was the other question, because you just mentioned it. Also, discussing the tax rate and helping the board to appreciate where we are right now, what that looks like. We've done that before in the past, when we were considering options and looking at what that adds. I think every municipality in the state of Indiana, every school district is trying to forecast how to move forward financially with the property tax changes and the limited money we're getting from the state. So I would like another lesson as to those tax rates and what that looks like, and what the public is used to paying. I want to be comfortable, I want the public to be comfortable.
And to that end, though, our tax rate right now is very incredibly reasonable as far as we are very low in some respects. So even if we were find the necessity to increase the tax rate, and as a homeowner, I don't like that particularly, but we would still be well in line with other places around us. So it wouldn't, the taxpayers here wouldn't feel like they're having a burden, because really our rate has been less than some others for a very, very long time. And so we need some more revenue, and this is the one way we can get it. And for the average taxpayer, it's not going to make a humongous difference, because we're not allowed to raise the rate that much, but ours is pretty minimal by comparison to the rest of the state.
Yeah, and you're right, Ian, 100%. The only thing I would say, not to counter that at all, would be to say, the reason we discussed taking a more chunked approach to what we're doing is because we don't fully know the ramifications of Senate 1 and those operations fund changes that are coming, right? And there is a chance at some point in time that we'll have to raise our tax rate just to maintain the levy that we currently have, right? So in order for us to take in the same dollars, like we could make a decision as a school corporation to raise our tax rate just a bit to make sure that we have the money to operate as we need to operate. Now, we've already made some changes with, some little things. Like right now we're installing LED lighting at Frazee as part of the project. Actually, it's outside of the project, but still part of the project, if that makes sense. We've done that kind of ourselves on the side. But we've taken lots of steps to be more efficient and to try to save money and tighten the belt a little bit. But we still have that coming. And I've asked them to be present at our August meetings and to give you that overview. I probably should have had them here tonight now in retrospect, but to give you that overview of what that looks like as far as those changes to operations funding, Senate Bill 1, but also your debt picture, right? To be able to lay that out for you and say, here are your options essentially. Because we can structure that a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about the debt service rate, because that's a separate tax rate. And I'd like to know how is that impacted by debt? Like if we take on more debt, I don't know that, it's just ignorance on my part.
If I sometimes speak out of turn, but if I know they're planning on being here on August 5th, but if they wanted, I wonder if before the session they're able to give that background knowledge.
Just information to prep us at least, so that we.
But August 5th and the 12th, they're required to provide, whether it's 10, 15, whatever threshold you determine, they will show you slides about your tax rate. What does it look like? They'll show you, and from what I'm gathering, they're trying to build it so that you have a debt cliff that falls off again in a few years. Once we see what Senate Enrolled Act 1 does, things start to settle a little bit. You have a debt cliff again to then determine what is next. And so you'll see how that repayment goes out and then what it does for the taxpayer.
Right.
So that's part of what will happen on the 5th and 12th, but it'll feel kind of formal in a presentation. I don't know if we could convince them to come a little bit.
Well, no, I think that's why it's good they're not here tonight, because I think we needed to just go through these drawings and the figures.
Yeah, they're gonna tell us a number and then we'll.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I guess,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna add, I mean, this because it's such a big part of our business, and Randy might be able to add, but I've listened to explanations of the Senate bill like 3 or 5 to 4 times. It's very complicated. But the one takeaway that I think is worth repeating that I don't think our colleagues would get us in trouble for is that essentially you're going to see over the next several years an increase in credits or taxpayers increasing the credits against their property value. So the net assessment, you know what that term means, is going to reduce over time. So what I've heard many, many times is it's inevitable if you do nothing that your assessed value is going to go down. So if you maintain the amount of dollars that every taxpayer gets, your rate will go up. That is a paradigm change because we've all, for the last 20 years of my business, have talked about tax rate neutral, tax rate neutral, tax rate neutral, because tax rate neutral meant that the taxpayers only paid what the economy rose. They didn't pay more than how much their property value went up. Well, now property value is going to reduce in terms of assessment. So if you do nothing, tax rates go up. So, but the taxpayer is still, how many dollars comes out of his pocket is still the same. Or if you want it to stay the same, the tax rate has got to go up. So I heard you say a level low tax rate. That is a thing that all of us have to re-educate our taxpayers that this is going to change that dynamic where it's not about tax rate, it's about the levy. Is that, have you heard that, Randy? Are you comfortable with that? I
Yeah,
think that's
absolutely.
something you have to retrain your mind in terms of how you manage dollars.
Yeah.
That's good, Victor, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I guess the question is, what's the path forward? The timeline at this point in time is what it is, right? This timeline would require me to provide notice to our local newspaper, Bob, team.
Thanks for coming, Bob.
Probably as early as tomorrow to be able to meet the deadlines, and we talked
For
about
the
that a
5th
little
and the
before.
12th.
It's a pretty tight window, right, to be able to do that, meet
absolutely.
those requirements in terms of postings. And again, I need that ceiling is what I really, really need, and so, thoughts, like, what's next? How big is the appetite for the special education edition?
Well,
And is it worth the price tag?
I'm going to speak for myself. I think the appetite for the special ed classrooms, in theory, I think it's the way to go. It maybe a little bit in practice too. I do think combining, I mean, we learned this with Little Spartan Preschool. We used to have our development, Head Start was at Fayette Central. I think there might have been one at Eastview, I can't remember.
There were 3.
Yeah,
There were 3.
and when we combined all that, again, for the same, that same benefit was derived. You have all those professionals, resources in one place. And look at Little Spartans. I mean, it is an amazing facility, and the work that they're able to do because everybody's in the same place.
It's good.
For me, yes, the dollar figure matters a lot, but I
Can you go
need,
back to that? Thanks, sorry.
I need to see, I need to picture the future. I need to have a sense of where we are. I know it's 26 million is coming off, is that right? Or no,
Randy, what is that exact dollar amount that's actually?
in 2026, I can't remember the dollar
And then the
amount.
next
How
one.
much is coming
Coming off the
off?
middle school?
Well, the middle school pays off in 2026.
Yes, okay, and how much money did we have tied up in that?
Altogether, originally it was 24 million or
24
something,
million.
over all
Right.
the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's something else this does, is we've been talking about the middle school forever and ever and ever and ever. Doing this project, one thing it does is we're not going to go another 25 years. There are going to be projects 5 or 6 years. That still does not meet all of the needs of this school district. I don't want to
But
ever
that's
go
much
that
better
far.
than all those
Well,
years
But we'll be
that
able
that
to
money
do it,
was
we'll be
tied
able,
up.
Well,
you know, in 5 years, we may go, holy cow, we didn't realize the problems at the high school. We really need to
Yeah.
address those. Or now we really, you know, we've seen that there's an increase of something, we need to do something at this elementary, whatever it may be. it gives more flexibility that way to address problems and not just a wait, okay, now it's available.
Yeah, until I have a little bit clearer on the financial picture, I'm hesitant to say. I mean, I do really like the idea of having pods, but others can speak.
So in the building addition and related site work, that includes the standalone storage? It's not in the new parking, really, because it's not right. Making sure.
I survived the middle school project. I was there teaching when it happened and was into that whole process. And they just don't do projects now that are going to pay off in 20 to 25 years. That's just, we were at a totally different spot financially and everything. My thing is that I think we've been playing whack-a-mole for years with getting stuff fixed around here. And the custodians have done a wonderful job putting things together with barbed wire and duct tape. But we're to the point now where we can't do that any longer. You just have to fix it. I think we need to, I'm really listing in favor of the pod and getting a special ed situation where it needs to be, looking at the future and talking with Megan and those. We are going to have more of these children. They do have special needs. They do need more space. There are just some things, if we're going to provide the best educational, the least restrictive environment for them to reach their potential, we're going to have to invest in them by doing, by giving them a facility that the teachers can work with, that we can work with, and nothing is going to get any less expensive over the years. And I think we've done things piecemeal for so long, and we just simply can't afford to do that. I think we just simply can't afford to do that anymore. We have to look at more downrange planning, and this is what we need to do. And these are going to be hard decisions, but I'm leaning very much in favor of doing the pod and spending the extra money at this point in time, because 3 years down the road, we get an influx of special ed kids, and you know, where are we? And I think we kind of learned that lesson with Little Spartan Preschool, by combining all those things. It's made it a much more effective, efficient situation.
Yeah.
So then if we don't do the parking, we wouldn't have the cost. Was there any additional cost for that playground section that it's kind of over?
Is that carried in the related site work where the new parking would disrupt the playground? So that's.
We ultimately ended up having parking lot dollars in both of those budgets.
Okay.
We had parking lot dollars to kind of nudge up against the playground as part of the new parking lot. We also had a playground attached to the new special needs addition. So I believe that we split those dollars accurately so that the only reason we had playground work in the parking lot was because we were getting adjacent to the parking lot.
Right.
So we had to address that.
Okay.
But I believe we've captured those. I will definitely confirm all those questions before we present a number on the 5th.
Okay.
That's a very good question.
I too agree with that. I just see a growing special need community getting larger, and I too would tend to go with that higher figure because of that, to address future needs.
Sure. Thanks, Chris.
I don't know if there'd be any benefit to the board to have Megan speak to the group a little bit, just because it helped when Kate was here, and I know Kate isn't able to be here tonight, when she was addressing some things at our last meeting and asking about this reworking of where the pod would be, and that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
And I know today was registration, so Kate couldn't be here, but I would really like for both Kate and Megan to be, and I know Ice Miller and Baker Tilly probably have their presentations, and I know it'll make for a longer meeting, but I think it'll benefit the board to hear from our special ed director as to considerations if you have a pod as opposed to separate
Sure,
pods.
it's very common when we're at project hearings because part of it is, there is a public comment section. And so it's meant that anyone sign up for public comment. It's pretty common for people to come speak in favor, exactly that you just said, to explain the rationale why they feel like this is the right direction if they choose to do that.
Can you flip back one more time, sorry?
If I can really quickly, if I can really, just to that point, Leslie, I did actually talk to Megan, Mrs. Gilman today, and we talked through the designs, the potential designs. And we've talked on a couple occasions, but, and she was involved, I think, in one of the very first meetings that we talked about this in terms of what it might look like. She had some interesting perspectives that I haven't shared yet because I didn't want to skew your thoughts. She did say that the pod area, the middle area, the common area might be difficult to use for OTPT and such just because there's traffic. She said that might be hard. She likes it, but it might be difficult. She also said if she were to choose between the west side of the building and the south side of the building, she actually would choose the south side.
Which is
Interesting.
Yeah,
Again,
that's
I
counter
didn't
to what
share
Kate
that
wanted.
because I didn't want to skew that.
But
What
I'd be
she shared
curious
with
to know
me,
why.
what she shared with me was that oftentimes our self-contained kindergarten youngsters will spend half of their day or a good portion of their day still in the general education classroom, so they're around their non-disabled peers. And so that was her consideration, was being what she felt like. I look at that, I think they're both about the same distance from each other, but I don't know if it's the straight shot, I don't know, but she felt like that was a consideration.
But that was still a pod, right, when it was
Correct.
on the south side?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there's still collaboration, there's still
Yes.
sharing of
Yeah.
space if needed,
Yeah.
Yep.
but it's just closer to the general ed classrooms, is your
Correct.
point?
Correct. Which is counter to Kate's opinion that there could be some noise concerns and different things like that.
Well,
So, interesting, just to give people
I think it has
different
to do with the
perspectives.
level of the disability too.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, you mentioned the severity
I
of the-
think Kate was very concerned that since all of the severely disabled are going to be in that space, that when you have severely disabled children, you have a totally different dynamic, and when you
Sure.
have those that can actually be mainstreamed into a regular classroom.
Mhm.
I have a comment or not a plea, but to the public. You know, our meetings are public, except for executive sessions, we live stream, and these are big changes.
They sure
And I would really like those people who are concerned, both, I mean, I don't know how aware the public is about funds being cut, about limitations of public school corporations now in the state of Indiana. And whether or not the net assessed value goes down, tax rate goes up naturally, or whether we feel a need to do that, I want the public to understand where that need would come from. That it's not somebody just saying, oh, we need more money, we're gonna make taxpayers pay more, but rather for us to deliver services to our kids and to be able to provide the level of care and support and education that we do with diminishing funds is going to impact our ability to provide all those services. And so, you know, we know that people tend to draw quick conclusions without having all the information because it's hard to sit through all of this. Look, I'm asking questions about the tax rate. I've been on the board, I'm in my 11th year, you know? I mean, these things are not easy to understand. And so I would love for the public, I mean, if you can come to the August 5th or 12th meeting or talk to us, obviously we value education. We think it's worth it if the tax rate changes, although I'm not advocating that. I just want to have those questions posed on the 5th and the 12th so we can be really clear to the public.
So what happens, Randy, if we do a higher cost, so you said all has to be used here, like you can't use it at another school, and pretty much everything is like we run out of things, let's just say, to do with it at Eastview, then what?
At that time, there's probably, I mean, we're gonna go with a higher cost. Ultimately, this just sets the standard. We're only going to borrow what we believe is going to be the cost. I mean, for as accurate as what Skillman has given us today, when we really narrow in and focus, we're gonna get a more accurate price next week. We're gonna get a more accurate price next month. We're gonna get a more accurate price a month after
But
that.
what happens if we do have a bunch left over?
Well, can I speak to this? Because we do this all the time. You can build in alternates into the project in case you have additional funds. For example, maybe we show a parking lot as an alternate, or you have a driveway as an alternate, or there's some other needs at Eastview that we haven't even talked about. As long as the money is spent at Eastview, there's always going to be a way to find out.
But it's still gonna be locked into Eastview. That's why we don't wanna put $20 million out there when we know the maximum's only gonna be 15. So you don't just dump a big, large number at it when you know you're never gonna get there.
And then once you get the real number, you're able to say, okay, let's not do that drive, let's not do the parking, but let's just stay focused on this.
And how often would we have a project? Do we have, I mean, I can't recall any projects we've done since I've been on the board where we had a bunch of money left over. Is that fairly
Doesn't
unusual?
happen.
Yeah.
No, and
Well, again, you get back to, I mean, if we look at Phrase Z, okay, we were at a low number, but when we did the project, there were 4 or 5 alternates. Because we thought if the bids come in really, really well, we could get all 5 of them. We don't think we're going to, but we were hopeful that maybe. And then when it actually bid, it was like, yep, unfortunately, we were right, and alternate 1's not gonna happen, alternate 5 doesn't happen, alternate 3 we can do. So that's where you build the alternates in, and you build options in there to do that.
but the likelihood of having money left over but the flip side of that is if we bid something out and then we don't get enough money to do it, then we have to go through a whole nother process to get more money to pay for the stuff that we can't afford that we've already started. And that's much more complicated than it's always nice if something turns out less than we thought, but today that typically does not happen. But to have those alternate kind of things built in, oh yeah, this didn't cost us as much, we can put that money here.
So Jeremy, you need a figure, right?
We do, to be able to advertise for that project hearing, we need that threshold to be set.
Oh, tonight?
We really need that.
I don't believe we have to have a vote tonight,
No.
but we have kind of a consensus that, yeah, let's look at that.
But there's no
16.
problem if we pick 4, but then we don't end up going with it, right?
I was gonna say earlier that, Jeremy
Until September.
brought up that maybe we should do the South Edition.
Yeah.
The option 4, the West Edition that we've discussed, is marginally more expensive. So there's an example where you say, let's proceed with the budget for 4. Everybody decides to do the South Edition, it's a few $100,000 less. We borrow less money and we're okay. If you do the opposite, then we're gonna have to come back and ask for permission for that incremental premium. So in that situation, I would suggest going option 4.
Right.
Chris, if we go to the south and put it there, do we have to do something else about parking? And what do we have for expansion room?
But your expansion room wouldn't change any because you could always still expand to the west, just as you have designed here.
But you're going to start getting into the bus parking, right?
No, I mean, the reality is if you add to the south, you can always expand to the place to the west. If you add to the west, you can always expand to the south later. Like, it's one half one, not the other. So like, it just depends on the direction the board wants to go now. You have either option to build. Obviously, building to the west is more difficult because you have the hill to deal with, right? We know that. But I'm sorry, you had 2 questions. What was the other one, Daryl?
No, I just think if we build it to the south, we're gonna do away with some parking spots that we have there right now, so we're gonna have to add something. And if we expand to the west, like you're saying, is it not going to block our bus getting in and out?
I don't know, I mean, just like that red area there is not gonna affect your busing at all.
Right, but the south, and if you have to put new kids over there, when we expand to the west,
Oh, if you
it's going to
expand
set
the
up
west
our
after.
bus
You're saying if you do both?
down the road, after we go south first, and we decide to come back and we have to add some classrooms, they're gonna have to go either east or west, correct?
And we
If
have
they
no
go
room on
west,
east.
we got no room for
On
our
east.
buses to get where they need to go.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm saying? I mean, does that make sense?
I'm not fully following, I'm so sorry.
I think what he's saying, if we were to build to the south, we're gonna have some disruption to some parking that's gonna be lost here. We're gonna have to account for the buses going in, which we did originally in that first option to show you what would the parking end up being after you lose some parking on
Really,
that
the
side.
only disruption are the few parking spaces on Fountain Street. Just, the bus parking area is not, the addition doesn't go into that area.
Right, but if we expand later, it's going to, correct? If we decide to add on?
If you design that addition for future expansion, either to the west or to the east.
You're talking about building on to
No,
to the addition.
Is that the south one? Can we put the south on?
This is the
That is the
original.
south one, yeah.
Okay,
This is the south.
so this is out by the road where Fountain Place is, okay?
Right.
And this is where our buses come in and out, correct?
Correct.
If we put this on and decide to go, we need to add on to this building, where are we going?
Oh, you're talking that way. I thought you were talking the
Yeah.
new red stuff at the top.
No, we said to the
Yeah.
south, and that's this one, right, to the south?
100%.
This option is no longer on the table.
Yeah.
We're talking about the pod.
But Megan,
Go to
I thought
3A.
was wanting, I thought Megan wanted.
This option.
This option is what you're
3B.
asking about.
She's looking at this.
Yeah, Rick, I don't know if there's a world that exists that you would add this and then add on to that. What I was saying was you could add this and
And
then
then add
add
on
on
that.
here if you wanted to. Does that make sense? That's why I wasn't following. I apologize, I was confused, so.
No, that makes sense.
So if we got, if the special ed population burgeoned again, that
Or
would,
general.
or general.
Or just general, yeah.
But
Well, my thing is Kate's the one that has to do the everyday things and manage the building with regular ed, special ed, and being an elementary school principal is wearing a lot of hats. And if we can make a physical plant that makes her job more effective and more efficient and do a better job for the kids, I think we kind of have, it's kind of theory and practice type situation. You know, Megan does a really good job, but she's not going to be in those buildings every day and dealing with the nuts and bolts of it all. Kate is, or whoever, you know, down the road. That's going to be the real concern of the principal is the day-to-day, how do we do this, how do we deal with this on a daily basis with these children? And the option 4 would seem to provide a better space for those kids.
I think for today, let's go with that higher number on option 4.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Megan and Kate
Sure.
at the next meeting, and then we can narrow down the option if we
The option,
covered
yeah.
ourselves.
With or without parking?
So if we're, yeah, so that's one thing I was looking at is if we do that, I think at this point in time, I'm not so sure the $1.3 million price tag is worth the parking. That's my recommendation.
I agree.
It's your decision to make as a board. But if you take that off, Victor, I'd be curious to see, I know you said 1.321 is not the firm all-in number for parking. There are some other things that are other line items, and you also, your design contingency and your soft costs will come down as well.
That's correct.
So I just need to know, I guess, what that number would be when you take those figures out, and how that, does that end up being 15, 15.5?
It's still under 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I think 15 is probably the number, just a round number we should probably be
Okay.
talking
Yeah,
about.
give us a little time, because I need to talk to Victor more about this, because if you take the parking lot out, that reduces your stormwater management, and there's less work in that regard too.
Okay.
Less piping, less excavation, So that would also be.
Can you get back relative, before the 5th, obviously?
Yeah.
But we have to still decide on a number, so it's
15.
I think
safe.
that 15 is
Safe.
going to be a pretty safe number.
We have to have a number to advertise.
Right, that's why I'm saying, let's
Yeah,
get that.
What we
that-
end up with gonna be-
That would be,
We don't have to decide that tonight.
Yeah.
that would be a safe number.
If we advertise the $15 million for the preliminary determination hearing, we're hopeful that we get some feedback. Obviously, Leslie, to your point, we can invite Kate and Mrs. Gilman both to show up if they can on the 5th to provide some feedback to us as well. And then we can make some decisions. Again, the big differentiator being whether or not the $5 million price tag is worth the addition, or if we feel like we're just going to do what we've done at Frazee, obviously bigger footprint a little bit, and roof and some other things, so that's why the price tag's a little bit more. Obviously, this is a backwards process from what you did before, right? So before you had, here's the project threshold, 6.1, we have to stay there to be able to make sure we don't go into the petition remonstrance process, and then you work backwards and said, value engineer this thing to meet this $6.1 million threshold. And you may be there too, that you may get to the first preliminary determination hearing and say, you know what, we're comfortable spending $12 million. Is there a way to take care of those needs that we have as priorities at that number, right? And that may just be a decision the board makes. So I think 15 is a good number to start with. That's what we'll advertise, that's what we'll put out there. We'll see feedback obviously in that process. We'll plan on that August 5th meeting as the first preliminary determination hearing to have those discussions publicly. We'll have Baker Tilly and Ice Miller here to give us that picture. Also talk what that repayment term might look like and what potential options are there. I know they talked a little bit about that debt cliff and making sure we don't paint ourselves in the corner and we have bonding capacity here in a few years. I think all of those things are really important for you to be able to look at as we plan for the future. But I do feel comfortable with that number as a good number to work from. It's a high number, right? So in context, obviously you're in the middle of a 6.1, 6.4, 6.5 million dollar project. And also, and we're going to do this too, and this is coming as well, but remember, just because of the membrane issue at the pool, we're going to have to ask for permission to spend more money there too. So that will be part of your next meeting as well on the 5th. I believe it's the 5th.
It is the 5th.
The 5th.
Yeah.
I think we're doing that night too. I was trying to think if it was the 5th
Night
or the
before school
12th.
starts.
I believe it's the 5th. No, I was just thinking through if we're doing the 10th.
Right, if we're doing it the 12th or the 5th, yeah.
A lot of dates, a lot of things going on. But we will be asking for permission to spend a little bit more money on that project as well. But, so, we'll go ahead and move forward with that. I will get that figure in the morning to our friends at Baker Tilly and Ice Miller and make sure they know and they're aware. We will get the notice in the newspaper that we're required to give as far as the 10-day notice. And they'll hopefully publish that Saturday, Bob? Bob doesn't do the legal notices, so am I right?
Did the
Somebody else
state,
does
did
that.
the legislature change something? I know you and I chatted briefly during legislative session about notices in the paper.
They keep reducing the number of notices that are required for different things.
Okay, but not for this.
Nothing major this time.
Okay.
I think too, we might put it out on our social media from the school corporation, exactly what we're doing, so people know we are having this meeting, this is what we're going to discuss. If you have concerns about this, and be a little bit more specific about, it's going to be monetary kinds of things, and a plea for the public, if you are very concerned about that, please come and be educated. It's a learning curve for everyone. And I think that would help with the transparency issues also.
Yep, and I'm always willing to talk. I'm always here. Obviously, we have a transition happening right now in Mr. Harris's office. To that point, Jim Summers, it's his first day tomorrow. He texted me right before the meeting and said, hey, I never asked you what time should I be there tomorrow. I thought we talked about that, but evidently I missed that piece. He and Mr. Harris will be overlapping here for a period of time, but then Mr. Harris will be phasing out. He'll be in a little bit here and there to help and to make sure Mr. Summers has what he needs, but obviously that complicates things a little bit. I know Randy will be around and be willing to help and provide support, but I did want to mention that as being a piece of the puzzle as far as the other things progress. So Do you guys have anything else for the good of the cause, Chris?
We will get started on the project hearing presentation. It's pretty informative. So it is, here are the educational needs, here's how this project meets those needs. So it's, you get some background, and then we talk about the actual project itself. We will then turn it over to Skillman, who will talk about the estimating and talk about the schedule, the tentative schedule on this project. And then it gets turned over to Baker Tilly, who will go through about 5 slides to show what the impact would be, short-term and long-term.
I think it's really,
That's
I think it's really important that we get it out to the public. If you have concerns, you need to come to the meeting. When we did a similar project years and years ago for the middle school, we actually had it in the middle school auditorium. And it was a very similar type situation when the people came in and explained what they were going to do. And we had a lot of people there. It was a very long meeting, but at least there was transparency as to what was going on, what it was going to cost, how long, what was going to be done, and why it was necessary, why we believed it was necessary to do it.
I'll go tell people at Pizza King if you want me to.
Go for it.
Looking for
Go
reason to
for it.
Go there.
Yeah.
Go for
Grab
it.
one on your way home.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
I don't need a reason to go to Pizza King.
Oh, okay, we're good.
If you need Pizza King's number, I think I have it on speed dial on my phone.
It's different here.
A motion to approve the agenda as
So moved.
I'll second that.
those.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh,
I'm gonna take Mike away so he doesn't move.
personnel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Recommendations, thank you. For employment, background, retirements, resignations, leaves of absences.
Randy, do you have anything to add there?
The only thing I'm going to add is, realize the length of this report, we just had a board meeting, what, 2 weeks ago? Things are changing literally daily. We've
Yeah.
got stuff in process already. And so we will be back with a personnel report on August the 5th, and we will have another one on August the 12th. And we'll have people, the one thing I want everybody, somebody kind of has the assumption that we absolutely, nothing can happen until the board votes. The board just approves, so we get people in here, once we get all of the recommendations, all the background paperwork, and we get them started before we have a board meeting at times.
How are we doing as far as, and I hate to ask this, or do we have our positions filled at this point?
No.
Or are we still looking?
I know we have a
There's one
6th grade open
certified
right
resignation
now.
that's on the agenda that just
yeah.
came through today, I believe, or
Yesterday, I think, maybe, but yeah, it just came through, either yesterday or
Someone
today.
that's moving out of the county.
Yeah, they're moving closer to Indianapolis, so they've resigned, so we have an opening, an elementary opening. And we have instructional assistants, we have multiple classified staff. We can always use more classified staff. I'll just put in a plug just because I like Daryl, but we can always use more bus drivers, custodians and all of that. I mean, we need everybody to run a school, and we do have openings throughout, and encourage people that are looking for jobs, come and check us out.
We also have coaching positions available.
We do have a few, yeah.
Yeah, we have a
do.
few.
There are a bunch on here.
Yeah. I recognize some of the names. I was
Yeah.
really happy to see that.
We're ready to motion, right there.
A motion.
I
And a second.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Those opposed, all in favor, signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. Approval of the elementary CMS DHS handbook for readers.
Yeah, so you might say, Jeremy, why are we bringing this back? We just had this. Well, there was an oversight in regards to some new law that changed. I do want to speak to this a little bit, just because I know there's been some misinformation out there about attendance and changes to law. I did put something out on social media recently, and I shared it with Bob as well, in regards to what state law has done. There are no major changes to the way that we operate in terms of student attendance. Last year, there were considerable changes in regards to expectations. In fact, one of the major changes this year is actually in favor of the families. Statute doesn't allow us the opportunity to suspend or expel a student any longer for attendance. It used to be, which was kind of felt very counterproductive, that when a kiddo wasn't at school, you could kick them out of school, right?
Which is exactly what they wanted to begin
Exactly.
with.
But state law doesn't allow us to do that, so that was a very recent legislative change. But one of the things that was somehow missed in our review of the handbook was FFA 4-H events are exempted. Now exempt means they essentially count as present to school, right? And so exempt is, there are other things like serving as a page, and there's lots of different things that would be exempted by law, which essentially means the student is present, right?
This is the state fair exemption.
Correct, that's part of that,
Yeah.
yeah. And some other things, but anyway, so that's the major change. There may be a few other minor ones. I think there was some scheduling stuff maybe in the high school handbook there that was highlighted, but nothing too major other than those attendance changes. But I did want to say that, ultimately, we can't teach children if they're not present, right? So attendance does matter. And I think it does matter too in regards to making sure that we set a good example for students for lifelong success. The reality of it is if, Mr. Harris or Mr. Lee, they don't show up for work on a regular basis, they're not going to keep a job, right? And so it's important that we teach kids that. But we also have a firm understanding that things happen. I'm a father myself, and I understand sometimes my kids are sick. Sometimes I can't get into school because of whatever the factor is. And we'll work with families on that. We just ask for communication and transparency from families and to call us and let us know what's going on and to work with us. And that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, that's my spiel there on attendance. But if you have questions, there are some good articles out there. I know there was an article out there that kind of exasperated some misinformation. This is not a Fayette County thing. This is a statewide thing. In fact, there have been many news agencies that have essentially published articles that were rebuttals to that article. In fact, some legislators did the same thing. So if you have questions, feel free to call your school administrators and we'll help with that. But again, my recommendation to approve the changes to the handbook as presented.
I so move.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Liz. All in favor? Signify by
I do want to give you a couple updates. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to jump forward.
Do we need to do
Yeah.
that discussion?
No,
Yeah, that's what we've been doing.
We've already done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Sorry.
But no, it's okay. It's okay. You're doing great. I do want to give a couple updates here really quickly because I think they're important. Number one is the well. I know I've kind of kept you abreast with what's happening with our well at Fayette Central. Long story short, that well at Fayette Central is, it's been a struggle for years, decades, right? Where the water rate essentially isn't what's needed to run a building of its size. So we have two 2,000-gallon tanks that are there. Essentially what happens is the water comes and it's fed into those tanks. Those tanks essentially provide pressure to the building. And those tanks have been there for how long? Long time? Yeah.
30, 40 years?
Yeah, for a long time. So we did a couple things here recently because we've been concerned about that. It's always been, when I look at it and I read things and I talk to people, I just get concerned because I think to myself, one day I could wake up and not have water at Fayette Central and not be able to have school.
Exactly.
And that's a disaster. What do we do in that situation? And so we're trying to be proactive with that and trying to address that. But we did have somebody come look at our well and do an inspection. They basically found that 10 gallons per minute is about the max that we're able to get there. 10 gallons per minute is what you would have in a normal residential home. Okay, not a facility that's servicing 350 to 400 people. And so obviously very concerning. We did meet this last week with Peerless. They're a statewide company that they have a hydrologist, they have aquifer specialists, and we met with two of them. And essentially the word that we received from them is if you want to get a better source from the ground, there's no place close that you can get that. You would have to go almost to Walmart before you find it. And so that wasn't good news. Over the course of time, Daryl can speak more to this, but I believe we've had, like three dry digs and 2 wells that have run dry, or is it vice versa?
There's 3 that we dug and didn't hit water, 2 were dead, period. And then there was the one that we are on now, which if we had to do it again, we would be too close to the property line and couldn't build it. So
Yeah, it's pretty shallow.
Yeah,
It's a very shallow well. And so that's concerning. I know somebody had brought up to me, there's an article, Bob talked about this the other day. Yeah, thank you, Leslie. The fact that
Glenwood is looking at
seeking after the potential of some grant funding for that purpose. I did reach out to their engineer that Bob provided me, I forget his name, but I did reach out to him this week. I've not heard back, just to say, hey, like, is there a way that we could work together on this and find a solution? He's gonna have to loop, if he does, I would assume that if Glenwood gets water, they're gonna have to somehow loop that, I would think.
It'd be
So-
coming from Connorsville. Connorsville
Yeah,
would
so
sell
straight
their
up
water
44,
technically, yeah.
could they loop? Could that be a work, could there be a world that
Right.
exists if that happens? I don't know. You know, we've talked to mayor, had some conversations with some other people, and it's a very expensive process, obviously, to bring water from the city. And so, so anyway, I just want to keep that in front of you to say that those conversations continue, that we're doing our due diligence. At this point in time, honestly, the main thing for us is besides the water supply, is the fact that well pump is very old. And we've been told essentially that it's on its last leg, and they're surprised that it's still running.
Yeah.
And so that and the cap essentially to the well, am I right when I say that? Is that accurate? Need to be replaced, and so we're working on that right now, but Daryl, anything to say? Yeah.
No, and that's coming from a guy that dug wells, and his dad dug wells, and his grandpa dug some, and he knows about them, and so he's given us some good advice, what could help a little, but not much.
Yeah.
Are you meeting with Jeremy directly from the water?
Jeremy from the city? No, we haven't actually discussed the possibility of bringing water. I've met with the mayor on that, so.
Well, because there had been some discussion about a local farmer who had land that would be, if we did bring water from the city, it would have to go through his land.
Mhm.
And
that's-
Erica,
Told he-
Erica had talked to the person about that, and that was, if we got to that point, apparently, from at least what they said from initial conversations, was not gonna be an issue. That if we needed to use a portion of that person's farmland to get the water from the city well, from the city system.
That's the problem though, getting the water from the city.
The guy
That's
you
the
were spoken
expense.
about has been aware of the guys, and he sent one of the well diggers
Oh, we
to
did?
us. Yes.
No, okay.
Yeah, so we've talked to, we're continuing to have conversations
Okay.
and trying to make sure we have a path forward on that, but I just want to keep it in front of you because it's a continued concern.
It would be way less than something like this, but.
For sure.
Like 4 or 5. For water, forever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not wrong when you say that. I think as we look at building inventory, we need to make some hard decisions in the coming years in regards to which buildings are going to be in our inventory forever. I'm not saying that Fayette Central is that building that's on the chopping block at all, but I think we have to be honest about what's in front of us, right? You know, we can't sustain 5 elementary schools forever if we continue our downward trend of enrollment. That's just the reality of the situation. Those aren't happy words for me to speak, but they just are what they are, right? It just is what it is. Again, I've said that before, that we can't continue to lose important variables and operate the same way. You just can't do it. And so it's an important conversation that we need to continue to have, is what's the viability of each of our buildings and our inventory, and what's that look like moving forward into the future. And so yeah, to that point, yeah, absolutely. And my understanding is that's one of the reasons that Frazee was chosen originally as one of the buildings that we would invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of the reasons Eastview is as well, because it's a building that's likely to be in our inventory for a long time.
Right.
And so there's always an ROI piece, the return on investment, in regards to putting money where we feel like it's best put. And that conversation, again, is a hard conversation to have, but one that we need to over the course of time. Okay, bleachers, I want to give you an update on that because I know there's lots of talk in the community right now. And so just to give some context as to the past and where we are. So we started having the conversation back in the fall. On the first Friday night of the football game, football season, we had several boards that were broken on that very first Friday night. We had an aging grandstand that was, by many accounts, very unsafe. And I'm just being honest when I say that. And when we have people that are professional people saying essentially we don't have the capacity to handle a mass casualty event in the event that grandstand would fail, that's a scary thing for a superintendent. And if you remember, at that point in time, Jeremy goes, red flag is waved, and we started looking for people who could help us. And so we found a used bleacher contractor that essentially came in and replaced many of those wooden boards with aluminum boards. We replaced the entire student section of aluminum, or wood to aluminum, just to make sure that we know a lot of kids are in that area and jumping up and down and everything else, and we just wanted to make sure that our folks were safe to get through the year. In the month of October, we brought to you a proposal to say, hey, we have a used bleacher contract, we can source these materials. We had checked 4 to 5, I can't remember exactly, references for this individual, including Liberty University, a large upstanding university who had used them before. And so we sourced that material as a sole source provider. $50,000 was the number for that when we sourced that back in October, with the understanding that we would then have this individual construct those bleachers for $149,000. We got to the fall, and those bleachers were torn down with the intent of building the new bleachers as soon as the weather turned in the spring. And so that process began. We started to prepare the ground. I shouldn't say we, our contractor did. Used some subcontractors here locally to do that, and then poured a pad. Unfortunately, we have since found that pad was poured not necessarily to design or engineered spec, right? And so that got us in a little bit of trouble in terms of, hey, we got to stop. Like, this is not okay, right? And just to give you some context on that, typically when you do a project, for example, our project right now at the pool and our project right now at Frazee, all that permitting, all of that work is handled by the professionals that you hired to do the work. That unfortunately didn't happen. And so we have been in the process then of going back and forth with our engineering company, with the design release folks at the state of Indiana, because you have to have a design release to be able to take to our local inspector. That local inspector then will issue a permit that says you can go ahead and build. So we've gone back and forth with the state design release folks. Now we've had two opportunities where they've asked for resubmittals because it's lacking information. And I know folks are out there thinking, what's the delay? It's red tape, and that's what it is, right? And so I just yesterday received new engineer drawings that I've resubmitted to the state first thing this morning. And the hope is that I'll have those back very soon with either, hey, you need to go back to the drawing board and do this one more time, or, hey, you're good to go, thumbs up. So what does that mean? That means that we are hopeful still that we will have the grandstand built by the time football season begins. I think our first home game is, I want to say, help me if I'm wrong, August the 29th, I believe, is the date.
We don't have the early game. We don't have the early game.
So our contractor is essentially telling us 3 to 4 weeks to put these things up, and that's both sides.
Is this the same contractor who?
Correct.
Why are we going with the same?
We are so deep into that process, it would be difficult to change. And what I mean by that mostly is we have sourced the material to build, right? And so to say to a new contractor, hey, we want you to come in and use the material that's already been sourced to build this bleacher would be a really difficult ask. Trust me, we've exhausted every potential option.
I'm sure you have.
And I've lost a lot of sleep over this
Yeah,
thing.
I know.
And we have tried to think of potential options and ways to move forward. And honestly, Skillman and Gibraltar have been awesome. They've stepped into the process. They've been helping. They've vetted our drawings before we've sent them for design release to make sure that they're correct. So fingers crossed that we get that back, that we're able to go to our local building inspector who will issue the permit, we can get started. Depending on what the state design release says, there is a chance that we'll have to either replace the pad that's out there or somehow tear or build a footer around that pad to make sure that it is what it is for years to come. Neither of those options are great. I don't love it. It is what it is. But it's what we have to do, right? To make sure that that pad and that grandstand is what it should be for years to come, and it's safe for our people. Now, I want to remind you that if I go back all the way to the beginning of the conversation again, we have 2 quotes that were $1.6 and $1.8 million to do this work. So we were faced with a situation back in the fall where we've got to fix it, and we had to fix it yesterday. Crumbling foundation, broken boards, everything. Like, I couldn't in good confidence put people in those bleachers any longer without addressing it. But honestly, 1.6 to 8.8 million dollars was just not possible. Like, we couldn't afford that. And so we had to find a way to do it, and thought this was a viable option. I still think it is still gonna work. I do believe that. But, you know, we're gonna be all in at $750,000, you know, which is half the price that we pay. I don't want to say you get what you pay for, but at the same time, the process has certainly been bumpier than what we would have liked. And to be in the 11th hour right now and not have a set of bleachers out there doesn't give me, as a superintendent, a lot of warm and fuzzies. And I recognize that. But I want the public to know that I'm doing everything in my power as a superintendent to make it come to fruition, and to get it done. I would be lying if I said I haven't talked to mobile bleacher contractors that are out there to bring in the mobile bleachers if we have to. I've got 3 or 4 of them that are on the hook right now that have said we can do that for you if we need to make sure that our student athletes and our people have the opportunity to have the football season they deserve. I'm hopeful that we don't have to go there, but we are. Randy, how much, Daryl, how much time do we spend on this?
He's opened more doors than I thought ever could be open, so he's spent a lot of time. Every time we talk, it's about the bleachers. Yeah, but what about the bleachers? And so he is stressed, and
it's not a happy subject, but full transparency. Just want people to know like where we are, and I know there are rumors out there that we're going to move our football season to Earlham, and I've heard that. I've heard some different things that are out there. That has not been discussioned at this point. We will do anything we can to make sure that we have bleachers out there for our kids that are safe and for our people. But you know, we are where we are right now, so we're hopeful. Fingers crossed. Whatever it takes for tomorrow to get maybe the next couple of days, we should have an answer tomorrow or Wednesday. Wait, tomorrow is Wednesday. Tomorrow or Thursday on whether or not the design release goes. I'm really hopeful it does, because does resubmitting to an engineer to say, here are the changes we need, is it just every single time we do that, it's a week, it's 2 weeks, it's a week and a half, and that's why the delay, right? Because that work takes time. And so I wish I could just scribble on it, change it, fix it, but they wouldn't necessarily accept that. So that's where we are. Just want to give an update. So
Wasn't the thing with the bleachers too, that the pad was poured at the end of March, and then the first weekend in April, we had like 10 inches of rain and everything.
we poured it at that time.
Huh?
When there was 10 inches of rain, that's when they poured it.
That's when they poured it, yeah, it was like,
yeah,
yeah.
it was not poured at an ideal time, and so you have concerns about you know, that pad lasting, right? So what happens is when it gets wet, the aggregate essentially separates from the wet material.
The weather was not cooperative either.
It has not been cooperative. There's not been a lot that's been cooperative with this project, unfortunately. So I just want to get to the finish line, and yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, just an update on Frazee. I'm there every morning just to say, hey, where are we? And we were supposed to be able to say, hey, teachers, you can get into your classrooms next Monday. Would have given them a week's lead time to get their classrooms ready. Our construction manager is still telling me that's a possibility, and he thinks he can make that happen. Started laying some carpet today in the new areas. Understand that means we're going to open still with 3 classrooms out of commission that will not be finished. We will open most likely with a restroom. Our communal restroom will not be of service either. And so we will have a temporary restroom that will be brought in from the outside. It's very nice. By all accords, it's probably nicer than our old restrooms were. So they'll just have to go outside into the courtyard, go out one door, enter another door into that restroom to use the facilities.
Will there be like a covering the walkway?
Yeah, that's been an ask. We don't know yet, because we don't know how close we can tuck that up to the building. And so that's something we talked about. Can we do that?
I was going to say, could we, and I'm going to put a reminder, this is the month of August, and we have a high school that does not have a cover over it. The kids go, personally, I don't see that as a big deal. Could it be raining sometime? Yes, it could be. But I don't see that as
We had that mobile classroom at Everton, kids had to go outside to that, it was where the library was.
Kids are resilient, that's what I'll say, and I think they'll be, I'm not too worried about it. It's going to be a short period of time. We're hopeful that it's less than a month of the school year when they'll be using that. And so
The
So,
kids
yeah.
might think it's kind of cool.
They probably will like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And do remember too, that a good number of the classrooms at Frazee do have restrooms inside of their classrooms. The entire wing that we've already done, phase one, every single room has a restroom. And so a good number of those rooms, they'll be fine. I mean, it doesn't take care of the needs of 20+ children at one time, but certainly does help. So, but things look great and the rooms look awesome. Once we get those, so we'll start school with those 3 rooms. So when you go in the front door to your right-hand side, the first 3 classrooms on your right, as you head, it would be to the east. Those classrooms will be out of commission. We've been down 3 or 4 classrooms during the course of time. That is one thing to talk about at Eastview too, because we don't have anywhere to move people in that building, and that's going to be a concern. So I don't know if we build the addition first, so we have some place to move. Because in Frazee we've said we've had 3 or 4 classrooms that we can move people around. Actually, more than that, right? Yeah, 5 I think. Is
Well, and I can tell you though that even going back to Eastview, don't want to keep going on it, but because of Skillman's work at Frazee, there are additional soft costs built into this to provide for a temporary restroom. Those are additional costs to Frazee. They're built into the project at Frazee, or at Eastview, because we realize it's just not a real possibility to blow out 2 restrooms and have them completely redone over a 8-week period of time or whatever it is during the summer.
Sure. Building looks great though. At some point in time when we get to a place where I'd love to take you and have you see. And if you guys ever want to go see, just let me know and we'll make it happen. So obviously moved registration today to the high school. I think I heard all good things. I think it worked out just fine.
It went very well.
Overall registration went great today. We've had lots of new kiddos. You know, we have moved forward with, we have a stop now in Milton that we're going to pick up some students. And so one of the things that we've talked about is how do we get kiddos, you know, to the great things happening here, you know, and we have buses in our district every morning from other school corporations, and so, you know, it's one of those things you hate to do, but at the same time, we've had families that have reached out to us and say, hey, like we want our kids to be picked up, and can you come get us? And so we've set up, we're working on a stop there in Milton to do that. So
They actually called us. We didn't call them.
it was their phone call to us that said, hey, we want to bring our kids. We've heard good things about the things that are happening. So that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. And I also heard from Kirsten today that their numbers at Fayette Central are incredible and may create some challenges for us in the coming days as far as how to figure out where to put people, where we do transfers. I want the public to hear too that transfer process is not an easy one. It takes some time, and transportation is an issue. Class sizes are an issue, like all those things. So we're working on that. We'll get them answers. I know there are lots of people out there that are waiting for those transfers to be approved, and we need to get registration numbers set before we step into that. What we've talked about is we don't want to approve a transfer from someone that's moving from one school, one in-county or in-town district to another, right? And then force transfer someone and have to bus them across the county, if this makes sense. And so just trying to be more efficient. So we're working our way through that right now. Last thing, really quickly, and I know it's late, and I apologize, guys, but I do want to say this. I just want to say, hey, school is coming. Just want to remind everybody that those bus stop arms are not a suggestion. I say that to the public. They are a have to. There's not a lot of things that Jeremy is heavy-handed on, but the safety of children is one. And you know, we've never made apologies for issuing tickets and to adults who should know better. And I say that not to sound like super direct, but the reality of it is when we're talking about the safety of our kids, I have children myself, and I would expect my children's school corporation to do the very same thing. That if it's not a divided road with some type of median, that is an expectation. One of the roads that's often a concern for us is Park Road, sometimes Grand.
4-lane highway is.
Yeah, because there's a sense that it's a big enough road that you don't have to stop, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of it is you have to, and you're legally required to.
Exactly.
And all of our buses are equipped with cameras, and we issue citations and tickets on a regular basis, and it's not something that we want to do, but it's something that we have to do to maintain safety for kids.
13 days in a row we got one on Park Road.
13 days in a row.
And we came down, 2 years ago, we had 193, and last year we had 157. And there's good reasons for the police, I mean, they're really working on helping.
Well, on
Kevin
Grand
Perry
and
is,
on Grand Avenue and on Vine too.
Vine is a
Oh,
big one. Grand Avenue by St. Douglas is a big one. Park Road is the biggest one.
Right.
But Kevin Perry's not, he's writing these tickets, he's not letting them get by with it.
You don't want to mess
You
with
don't.
Kevin and kids, he has 5, so.
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, the 30 seconds that you save to go around that bus quickly is not worth the life of a child. And so we appreciate the public's help in that and making sure we maintain those standards and expectations. So
And
thank you to our law enforcement partners for doing
And
that.
Mayor for letting us be able to use those guys to write
Yeah,
tickets.
yeah,
You know,
for sure,
he's-
for
He's
sure.
helped us a lot, so.
That's all I've got, sorry.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Those in favor? We gonna skip the opposed?
All right, we're done.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, yes, I'm gonna sign, correct.